to order. Go for the housekeeping.
Okay. Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission Executive Committee meeting. Thank you for joining us. We will begin at 1:02 p.m. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raise hand feature. To use the raise hand feature by phone, dial *9 on your phone's dial pad to raise your hand and do the same to lower your hand. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. All Legal Services Trust Fund Commission and committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. A friendly reminder that this is a video conference and to please be aware of your surroundings behind you. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select enable auto transcription. Troubleshooting. Tip: for those using Zoom on a computer, when on mute, holding down the spacebar will temporarily unmute. If you use the phone to dial into this meeting, please be sure your computer's microphone is on mute in order to avoid audio feedback issues. While joining audio via computer is highly recommended, if an individual loses audio, they can call in separately using the Zoom conference number.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's take roll.
Okay. Schreiber.
Here.
Al-Sarraf.
Here.
Connolly.
Here.
We have quorum. I'll do roll call for liaisons and staff. Copeland.
Present.
Brown.
Here.
Snyder. Melanie, I thought I saw you.
I'm right here.
Oh, great. Okay, State Bar staff. Saw Elizabeth, Jennifer, Brady. Brady, are you on? I thought I saw you.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Rocio, Chris.
Yep. Oh,
Great.
sorry, McConkey.
McConkey, sorry. Okay, I'll pass it back to you, Chris. Chris Schreiber.
And
Yeah.
Laura Brown is here also
Yes.
with the Judicial Council.
So we have a couple quick beginning of the meeting notes. I have to step out to attend an ex parte hearing, and we're going to go a little bit out of order because Elizabeth also has to leave. When I leave, Erica is going to take over as the chair pro tem. I don't know if we want to do that motion now, but
I don't think we need to do that motion now.
Okay.
Brady, Chris is going to slide off and Erica's going to be the chair, but we can do that when he leaves. Yeah.
okay. All right. So first thing, let's approve the minutes from the November 30th meeting. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at those?
Yeah. I can make
Okay.
a motion.
Thanks, Erica.
I'll second.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, let's call roll.
Schreiber,
Yep.
Al-Sarraf,
Yes.
Connolly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to jump to number 4 on the action items, which is Elizabeth. Go for it.
Thank you, and thank you for taking me out of order today. Let me share my screen. I have just a real quick PowerPoint. So I'm here to give an update on the law school summer fellowship program. Just as a quick reminder, Business and Professions Code 6410.03 allows us to redirect $5 of the $45 legal aid contribution on the attorney licensing fee to fund law students fellowships, with the goal to support law students interested in pursuing careers in legal services for indigent people. It's a competitive grant process with preference for fellowships serving rural or underserved communities and that serve clients regardless of immigration status. The statute's in effect for 2023 through 2025, and we anticipate 2 funding opportunities, one for summer 2023 and one for summer 2024. We opened the applications in February and they are due this Friday. We've conducted outreach with our grantees and with law schools and anticipate 50 or more applications. There's quite a few open in Smart Simple right now, so we're really excited about that. As you all remember, the commission formed the Law School Fellowship Grants Committee at its November meeting, and the commission agreed to invite members from the State Bar's Council on Access and Fairness to join the committee. So the committee is made up of 2 trust fund commissioners and 2 COAF members. And the commission also delegated authority to the committee to approve the RFP and consider and approve award determinations. As you all know, Business and Professions Code 6210.5 creates the commission and entrusts the commission with responsibilities, including decisions about individual grants, which are self-executing without requiring the State Bar Board of Trustees approval. Because there are non-commissioners on this committee, just out of an abundance of caution, staff thinks it's appropriate for the commission or the executive committee, if authority is delegated to it, to approve the committee's recommendations. So staff would like to ask at the March meeting that the commission delegate authority to the XCOM to approve the committee's recommendations. And that would mean that the XCOM would need to meet either the last week of August or the first week of May to review and approve those recommendations. So I'm here today just to ask if that is okay with the commission or that's with XCOM, if you're amenable to that.
Just to clarify, last week of April.
Yes,
Sorry,
last week of April.
Yeah. Amin and Erica, any concerns, questions, comments about that?
I just want to confirm, the reason you want to delegate to XCOM is just timing wise. Is that the issue?
Yeah, the timing for these grants is actually very late in the summer recruitment process. And likely for the 2024 summer, we would probably do this grant application review process this fall. So we're just really late, and it's for both the law students and for the legal aid organizations, it's causing a lot of kind of concern.
And originally in November, the commission had already approved delegating it to the committee itself, but like Elizabeth mentioned, because we went back and checked with legal, out of an abundance of caution, since there's two members that are not on the commission, it needs to, we think on abundance of caution, roll back to the commission. So it's either the full commission, but we think to be a bit more nimble, XCOM would be an easier meeting to just schedule one more ad hoc for you all to review and approve that, to make sure that, our T is crossed.
Makes sense to me. Can you remind me who are the commissioners that are on the
Sure, it's
committee?
Bonifay and Vanetta are the commissioners.
Oh, great. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amin,
makes sense.
any concerns?
No, I think that makes sense to me as well.
Okay, great. So then I'll come back to the commission meeting in a few weeks and make that request. So thank you all.
And then after that meeting, unless you guys would rather for yours, we could do 2 things. I could send out some dates in a couple of days of that meeting, or we can wait till the commission formally approves it and we send out it, whatever works for you to get that meeting on the books.
Well, I think we should try to coordinate the date and hold it as tentative until the commission approves, which I'm expecting it should, but I'd rather operate a little bit. Because I'll just tell you, the first week of April is
bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay.
So feels like, yeah, we should attempt.
Okay, so we'll email you, either Elizabeth will or I will email you some dates just to get a hold on the calendar then.
Great.
Yeah, great.
And sorry,
Okay.
I just want to ask one really quick. Bonifay and Vanetta, they know that this is the
Yes.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we flagged this issue for them at their last meeting in January.
Got it. Okay, just wanted to check, make sure if there was any issues, we were aware of them. Thank you.
Of course.
And otherwise, it's still the good news project we hoped it would be. I'm assuming there's
Yes,
no.
we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback about it. We held with lack support, we held a roundtable with some law schools to talk about it, and they're really excited. We wanted to make it very clear that this is to supplement funding, not to replace their funding. And so we hope to be able to work more with the law schools in the future to continue to support law students in the public interest.
Yay. Good stuff. All right, Selena.
I will keep my comment very brief, but I just want to reiterate Elizabeth's point about, next year this will need to be sooner. I think a lot of law schools wish that we had all of this set in stone early on. It would have been impossible to create a structure for this. And so we have been consistently messaging that this is the first year, we're learning a lot. And I think that programs and law schools are giving us a lot of feedback on messaging to how they message to law students the possibility of pay. But I did want to share that we had collected data for Elizabeth and her team to be able to understand how organizations were currently paying or not paying their law students. And I looked at that again today in preparation for this meeting. And even just of the organizations that replied to that survey, we had maybe half organizations participated. There were already about 270 law students who worked in legal aid last year. And so we know that the state bar funding is not going to pay for all of them. And so we just really have been saying law schools should not feel that they can reduce funding. We want to increase funding. So, but it is a lot of money and it can make a huge difference, but we are really trying to stress, don't reduce external funding sources.
Well, I don't know if this is possible, but my own law school experience when I was hired at a nonprofit, my 2L summer, those hiring decisions were sort of made when they were made, and then my funding came from a grant within the law school. And so it seems to me like there may be a situation in which hiring decisions can be made and funding that might have otherwise come from a school or from the organization itself might be either supplemented or replaced. Because the hiring decision wasn't delayed.
And what we only saw and what Elizabeth summarized in her very great report is that a lot of law schools don't pay very much. Like they give a stipend,
Right.
with work study funds at maybe $2,000 or $3,000, or organizations that pay, some of them are only paying $1,000 or $2,000. And the program through you all is a living wage, which we keep saying we want a living wage. And this is hopefully going to set the bar higher for everyone.
Yeah. All right, good. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's head back up the agenda to item number 1.
Great, that's me. I'm up with an update on our office's new structure. I just want to let you know that Elizabeth and I, the last 6 months, I would say, are plus we kind of been looking at our org chart to see if it still makes sense. As you all know, we have just, our growth has been just explosive the last few years. When I started at the state bar about 7.5, 8 years, we were a team of 7 or 8. For the 2023 budget, we have 22 FTEs, and we do anticipate a few more if we receive care court funding, which we anticipate adding to that. So in light of kind of the growth and the infusion of money, Elizabeth and I have reorganized the office a little bit. It's not dramatic. And I wanted to show you the office chart in a second, but I also wanted to let you know, one of the biggest changes that we've done is we have hired back Rocio Avalos as our director of grants. So, Elizabeth and I will still kind of handle like the major operations of the office. Elizabeth will be overseeing all of our policy work. And I will be leading into kind of the policy work. I'll still be helping out a lot on the grant side, but really the day-to-day operations of the staff. We're gonna train up Rocio so she can handle that. We needed really somebody to make sure that nothing was falling through the cracks. We were meeting all of our contractual obligations. The infrastructure was strong, and that our staff was getting the support that they needed in terms of professional development and just kind of the day-to-day. And I think Elizabeth and I were kind of busting at the seams. So we have hired back Rocio. She's on her third week, Rocio? Third week back with the state bar, and we're just really, really so happy. I was just saying to both Elizabeth and Rocio, like, if Rocio was here and it's still kind of an undertaking to train her. So I really honestly cannot imagine anybody else in this position. She's getting her bearings now, and at some point you know, in a commission meeting, you'll be hearing updates from her about all the grants work. I'll still be handling the day-to-day of the commission and being the lead staff contact, but Rocio will really be managing the staff. So just really pleased to hear. And I'm going to share with you our org chart just so just for a second, if you don't mind.
That was going to be my request, if there's anything in writing for us to sort of eyeball.
Yes. Oh, I don't know why it's not.
And in terms of, Dwan, while you're doing that, in terms of, you know, commissioners reaching out, is there I mean, do you have a preference or recommendation for to whom and whatnot?
I think still to me, and
Okay.
let me and Rocio get our bearings in the next couple months, and then it might be like both me and Rocio. We'll have to decide on like communications, but I think for now, me.
Okay.
Okay. Can you all see this? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just, the big change was Rocio as our director of grants. And then I just want to alert you to some structural, which won't impact you on a day-to-day, but you might be interested in knowing. So Elizabeth used to oversee our fiscal staff, and then I used to oversee kind of the program staff related to grants. We're going to have Rocio kind of oversee both pieces, both the fiscal and the program compliance and all that stuff. So everybody that you see on the right-hand side is going to be working on grants. This is not to say that the people on the left-hand side that's supervised by Elizabeth won't be working on the grants. About 5 years ago, our office went through an integration where we wanted everybody to have a mixed portfolio. So everybody had a little bit of grants, a little bit of diversity inclusion work, and a little bit of access work. Everybody will still have that, but now there's going to be a leaning on either the grant side or the left, the access and policy side. And the reason being is we really need to get organized on the grant side. And we've done a good job. We built out the infrastructure, but we need to kind of solidify that infrastructure. And this will just give the staff a little bit more clarity in terms of their roles. It'll help us to hire. So I'll just take for instance. So Erica Carroll, you know, she is now the committee coordinator for eligibility and budget review committee. She'll still remain that. But part of her portfolio is going to be around access work. She's done a lot of work around the LRAP. She's doing work around diversity. And so it kind of just makes sense for Elizabeth now to supervise her instead of me. But with that said, she's still going to be doing grants work. So there's still going to be like the mix, because our office really believes in like having the grants work inform the policy work inform the grants work. But the structure just makes sense with kind of the growth of the office. And then just having it centralized with Rocio, both the program side and the fiscal side, we think will streamline compliance. And I'll give you another example. With monitoring visits, it'll go through all the major findings will go through Rocio, just so it's centralized. Before, it was being split with me and Elizabeth, and we were doing a job, but I don't think it was creating efficiencies. With this new structure, there'll be a lot more efficiency. And so we're hoping with this, our staff won't have to be working beyond 40 hours much. So I'll leave this up for a second. So if you guys have questions.
Yeah, I see Michael's name in two spots.
Oh, there's two Michaels.
We have a Michael Chang and we have a Michael Chong.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's just small type. I can't see it.
Yeah.
No.
So Michael Chang is you met Michael. You guys know Michael.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, he's
Hi,
on too.
Michael.
So he's still going to be overseeing our fiscal team. And this fiscal team, I don't know if you all remember. I think a lot of you might remember. Used to be just one senior program analyst for all of our fiscal operations, and that's impossible now, because our monitoring for the fiscal piece has been built out. We do desk monitoring visits. We have, instead of 4 grants, 3 grants, 7 or 8 now, and so we've had to build out our fiscal team, and that's why there's 5 right now under Michael, and then Michael, so that's 6 under a fiscal team.
Got it.
Erica, do you have any questions?
I guess it sounds like you guys might still be working this out, but like you mentioned, like Erica Carroll's still going to be handling, you know, the EB&R. When we do like discretionary grants, you know, are we still going to be, are those going to just come from kind of Chris's team?
Not just. So what we imagine is like the standing up a grant program that falls a little bit more on like policy work. So
Okay.
with Care Court, it's one of those where Chris is on the grant side, but he's going to be designing. But say we had another grant that came through that was purely new, it might be somebody on Elizabeth's team that's like helping to negotiate it, helping to stand it up. Once it's stood up, then the people on the right will kind of execute and do the more routine work.
Okay.
So there's still going to be a mix. I mean, we're just
Yeah.
giving our staff a little bit more clarity.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then I assume kind of, this is just my own personal interest, is like for rules committee, kind of the staff will just get assigned based on their what impact the rule may have on them, right?
Exactly.
Their
So
expertise. Okay, perfect.
I'll still remain the committee coordinator for the rules committee.
Sure.
And I don't know if we've said this explicitly, but the staff that work on rules committee work, there are senior program analysts and our lead program analysts and our program supervisors in the office. So
Got it.
that will still remain because those classifications are on both sides of the chart. So it makes it a little confusing, but yeah.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
And I don't think there's anything, Dwan, that we need to do in terms of voting on this.
No,
or it's just a
there's
FYI
yeah.
for us.
Yeah, that's just an FYI for our structure. Again, it shouldn't really change the day-to-day, other than that you're going to be seeing Rocio a lot more and increasingly more as things kind of transition to her.
Okay. Thanks, Rocio.
Yeah,
In
welcome.
advance.
Welcome back.
Great. Well, thanks for that update. I appreciate it. That's good. I'm glad to hear there's sort of efficiencies, and it seems like we're kind of getting to that full house type of fully staffed and hopefully less stress and fire drill management.
No. It's very close. We had a new staff start this week. We're about to make an offer to 1 or 2 more new staff, and at that point we'll be fully staffed. But we did build in 2 FTEs in anticipation of Care Court. So once that comes through, then we'll repost. But at least for this hiring wave, we'll be finished.
Okay.
You need to send people to my agency. We're super understaffed. Send them over to the AG's office. I'm like all alone in my section.
Oh, we've been like, it's ebbs and flows. I mean, we've been getting a lot of really, really good candidates the last few months. And my theory is that because the economy is like, there are layoffs in the private sector. And so I think my theory is when the private sector is not doing well, people look for a safe government job with a pension. So we've been benefiting, which is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I am going to entertain the motion to have Erica sit pro tem because I don't want to interrupt the flow of the next presentation, which is number 2 on our agenda, the IOLTA update. So I'll go ahead and move. Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Actually, okay, great.
I'll do roll call.
Yeah, sure.
Schreiber,
Yep.
Alsaroff,
Yes.
Connolly,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. Great. So Eric, I'll let you introduce number 2 on the agenda, and then I will take my leave and return as soon as I can. And thanks to everybody who's here and Erica for sliding into the chair.
Yeah, no problem. And I apologize in advance. My mom is in the hospital, and so I'm kind of dog sitting, and so I have little chihuahuas in the background. So I apologize. I will try to keep on mute. Every once in a while they see someone walk and they're like, ah. Okay, so I guess the next one's the IOLTA revenue projections. So
Yes.
Dawn, that's your
Michael and I are going to do this together. We're going to give you guys a really, really high level, just really a preview, and then the item for this on the commission meeting will have a lot more details. And it's I'll just preface by saying it's really good news. And Michael, I'll hand it to you to provide.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Let me share the presentation slide with everyone. Give me 1 second. We'll pull that up. Great. So I prepared a quick recap, providing a comparison of the amounts from the Board of Trustees meeting middle of last year, approving projections and so forth on 2022 and 2023 IOLTA revenues. Those amounts are highlighted under this blue column here. And so what I've done is I've updated IOLTA revenue based upon our January through December 22 actuals. And so the big items in green, the bars in green, provide a caption of the differentials in terms of increases. So for 2022, between the original projections that the board approved and what we actually ended up collecting in the year, there is a increase to $62,445,384 of revenue. The amount of difference is over $29.5 million and 89.86%. So very, very healthy. A lot of that is because of the many rate increases from the Federal Reserve Board last year. I can't remember the count. I want to say it was 6 or 7. It seemed like every month that they met, they ratcheted interest rates up at least, 0.5%, if not more. So that in itself actually drove a large portion of the rate increases. And then the other component to the rate increases is with respect to deposit balances. They're remarkably healthy. I recall that for our December remittance balances, the portfolio was over $7 billion. And that's very interesting in talking with a consultant that we work with, in that he mentioned that he has not seen the same type of trend with other states. It seems like an anomaly for California, because most of the other states, they do see a higher increase in rates, but it's tempered with a slight decline in deposit activity. So we're sort of making out on both ends. And so how that translates into 2023 is you've got this situation where you have a very healthy, currently, an unanticipated depository balance and very high rates as well. So for 2023, the projection, just as a comparison base, is going up to over 69 million, 69 million 9, and that's 23 million 5 in additional revenue just for 2023, which is over 50% increase. And so what's going to be really interesting for 23 is the additional rate increases that may still be forthcoming. We've already had some during the year. I know the board is, the Fed's meeting again later on this month in March. Very early on in the year, I think the economic data was pointing towards a small increase of maybe 0.25%. Now, because the economic data has actually been more robust, there's sort of been anticipation that the Federal Reserve will actually increase rates north of that, so maybe 0.5% again. But all of this is to say that they're not done yet for the year. So when you combine 22 and 23 interest activity, just really for IOLTA, because the other drivers for Justice Gap, donations and other things, they haven't really moved when you compare year-to-year type activity. The main driver is really the interest revenue. We will more than likely realize a greater amount of revenue when you combine both 22 and 23 to 53 million one, or around 67%. And so just as a comparison point, when we talk about how much we actually collected on January through interest, comparing that to what we projected, it's over 220% of our projected amount just from 6 months ago. And on average, it's close to $9 million of interest per month when we extrapolate that on a monthly type basis. So it's very robust and fairly significant in terms of interest revenue that we're seeing. The anticipation is where either the depository balances start leveling off and start decreasing. It doesn't seem like we're looking at that from this point in time, because the balances have been, like I mentioned, remarkably robust and very, very consistent over the last 4 to 5 months. They've been around that $6.97 billion mark for quite some time. So it'll be interesting to see when that starts to either level off or when that trend starts to set in, where financial institutions are going to be in more of a cost control standpoint and opting out of the ECR and leadership rates, which are very high, and moving to comparable rates, which for the most part have tended to be much lower. So that's what we've got so far. And we have a next slide for IOLTA interest investments that I could bring up for Dewan.
Yeah. So because the revenue has been going up, you know, and also, as you all know, there's a codification working group on the IOLTA reserve. And one of the questions that was asked at one of the meetings was, what are we doing with, are we investing this? And we have been, the State Bar has a policy where we do invest it. At the time when that was asked, the interest rates are still really low. So prior to the pandemic, we were about 1% on our investment income. During the pandemic, we were about 1/4%. That 1/4% around Q3 went up to 1.25%. However, the last couple of months, it's gone up pretty significantly. So our CFO took the State Bar money and put it in a money market account, and we got the percentage very recently. We actually didn't realize the money market account was this high. But let me get out my notes to make sure I'm quoting it right. So our reserves now, all of our IOLTA money, are in a money market account, and it's yielding about 4.4% right now. The interest is paid out daily. It's a really good money market account. We did meet with our Office of Finance to see kind of what other products are there. Can we put it in something that's a little bit more aggressive? You know, money market it's good, but there are, I think, on the market bonds, CDs that could yield a little bit higher. So we bank with Wells Fargo. She's actually meeting with the Wells Fargo representative today to pick another product, but she's already been quoted that if we move it into like a 3-month commercial paper, the yield would be between 4.56 and 4.99, so slightly higher than the money market account. So we did some calculations within our office, and we think safely we can move about $55 million into one of these commercial papers for 3 months. Let it mature at that 3-month mark, then we'll decide how much more to move in. But we've saved back some to make kind of our quarterly payments, and we saved back. We're conservative like we always are, not just the 12-point-something million, but we built it a little bit buffer there, right there. Is that the 18 million that we've saved back in order to make kind of grant obligations, knowing that actually the only grant obligation we have is this 12.6, but we saved an additional about $5 million there in case something comes up. So that's really conservative in terms of, you know, a commercial paper, 3 months, it'll mature, and we'll get that 4.5% at least, which is great, because 4.5% on 55 million. Michael, we pulled out the calculator, it's not on the slide, but it's like 2 or 2.5 million. It's a sizable amount of money, very healthy, risk-free. That there were. So it's really, really great news, because even before the pandemic, there was 1 year that we had significant, the first year that we had big grant money, that was 50-something million, we were able to put into investment income. And at that time, I think we generated like 800,000, 900,000 that first year. And that was already remarkable. But we haven't seen this type of returns on our investment, I don't think ever, just because our balances had never been this high. And then just the timing right now of the market, we're able to kind of take advantage of it. So kudos to kind of that IOLTA Reserve Working Group for bringing that up. And then I'm so glad that our state bar kind of finance team was already on it. When I asked them, even before I asked them, they had already moved it into money market account, but they have been really great to work with and figuring out what other investment portfolios or products are available at Wells Fargo. So it's been fairly seamless in terms of like helping us to manage the funds.
Ron, are there limitations or like restrictions as to what kinds of things you can do with this income?
So that's a really good question, and we don't have really a policy around it. This is something that, since this has come up now, I think my recommendation is to tack on either to the IOLTA Reserve Working Group a policy that they can come up with, or have a separate working group in terms of like, in an event of this, like, what do we want to do? What's the trigger? Because there's kind of no authority, I think I took it upon myself to kind of move that money, because I did every day that we're not moving it, we're bleeding money. So, and it's safe. So I've taken kind of that liberty of doing that. But again, like, it would be great to have that spelled out of what a trigger is. And Michael and I have brainstormed some, and maybe the trigger is like holding back either 1/4 payment or 1.5. What we've done right now is hold back about 1.5. If the commission wants to be a little bit more conservative, they might want to hold back 2/4 worth. The other question is like, do we want to be a bit more conservative? I would say at this juncture, probably not, maybe to keep it on Wells Fargo, but the commission might want to think about that. I would not recommend moving it to, say, a community bank right now. Wells Fargo is a large entity. We've banked with them. We know they're not going to go under. And you know, the thing is, the investment income is like the cherry on top, right? We never want to invest it so that we risk losing it, right? So I don't think the commission would ever want to invest in a stock or anything like that. I would not recommend, but we should probably spell that out. That would be kind of great to have that in writing. What's a trigger, what's allowable, what's not allowable. And Selena has
yeah, sorry, Selena, go ahead.
Well, I wish that I had reactions, because I wanted the whole time that Michael was talking, I wanted to have like the thumbs up and the hearts and everything, because this is just such exciting news. I kind of want to cry, because I was around during 2008, 2009, 2010 when we had like 4.5 million in revenue. But I did want to suggest that if the commission wants to be cautious about not locking it away for too long, but also aggressive and putting away more, perhaps you could consider doing like overlapping 3 months or 6 month CDs. So there's ways you can do it where if anyone is worried about needing to access the money, you would be able to access it. But I'm very grateful that the CFO is doing this work, because this is a lot of revenue that can be put to really good use in our community. It's not like $500,000. This is a lot.
Yeah. So we had talked about like a CD ladder, or, you know, what our options are. And we wanted to move on this really quickly. Like we said, we wanted to put it right away so that it matures in 3 months. But I think in the next 3 months, you know, the thought is like, Rocio, Michael, and I are going to work together to see what our cash flow needs are for the year, and maybe projecting out. And then we could be a little bit more strategic, because what she's told us, and which I'm sure you guys all know, if we leave it into something a little bit longer, we might be able to eke out a little bit more of interest rate. And because it's a large amount of money, it's meaningful, right? To go from a 4.5% to 5 or 5.25 would be a meaningful amount of money. So we could be a little bit more strategic. But still be, I guess, like, I want to call it conservative, but safe, right?
So I just want to ask, because I know there's the timing on this. This is all money coming in that would then be distributed next year, right? Because we've already sort of committed to but we ended up, I assume, with like a bunch more based on what Michael was saying, because we budgeted for this year based on what we thought would come in 2022. So we ended up with like a lot of extra.
Yes.
So, I'm sure the reserve working group is handling this, but I anticipate this will become like a big topic of like what we're going to do with this extra money in the next commission meeting. And I'm not saying you guys have to have any recommendations now, but like I'm just sort of thinking about for myself, kind of like what. It's great that we have all this money, but like we always have this debate about how much do we kind of get out the door? How much can they absorb, right? And how much do we hold back? And I just didn't know if you guys had already started thinking a little bit about that or what.
Yeah, and Selena's on that working group and she can give you more details, but yeah, the working group has a proposal. It's very complicated, and so we might need a couple more meetings to kind of finalize it to bring to the rules committee. And then this investment piece, the rules committee, I mean, that working group actually hasn't had this update that you're receiving now. We literally are running the numbers like the last week and decided to like pull the trigger. The thing is, you know, it's still in a money market account that's yielding a really good interest rate. So I don't want us to think that we're like, there's like missed opportunity, because it's still in a very short, we're just trying to eke out a little bit more, knowing that there's kind of safe. But our ask to that working group is like, perhaps we tack this on and figure out the investment piece. And if not maybe this working group, then maybe it's another working group with similar members or some time frame. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get something together to like vote in March. I doubt that. March will be this type of update with the commission to kind of get them like starting to think about it. The other thing, just to give you all peace of mind, is like the state bar has an investment policy and we're in alignment with that. So we're not deviating from that. If we ever wanted to be more aggressive, and I'm not suggesting that we do now, and I think our office needs to do analysis of that. It would require us to like, if we're deviating from the state bar kind of investment policy, we need to advocate for them to change that policy. But right now we're just in line with that. And for us, that feels really reassuring, because we don't right now have the staffing or I think in-house expertise, at least in our office, to kind of manage those funds. So we're really pleased to hear that our office of finance was like on it and is going to manage it for us. What we need to provide for them is like our cash flow numbers, right? Because they don't know. We in terms of like what we need to keep in the bank in order to make our obligations, our payout, right, our quarterly payments and our annual payments. They will like select the products for us, or if there's a decision, then they'll come back to Rocio, Michael, and I to make it. But they're really managing it. And the thing is, like, we're a public entity, so we are subject to certain like requirements and certain things to maintain. So it's very complicated, and we have liked the fact that we can rely on our finance team to do that.
Yeah, no, all of that sounds great. And I mean, I think there's a broader question of like the interest that we get on it. You know, should that be devoted immediately to going out the door? Should it be sort of put to reserve? Can we kind of slowly build sort of an endowment? But it sounds to me in a good way, but you know, perennial debate is like, it's going to be a wave of cash for 2023. And like, I know, you know, there's sort of always this debate about how much the legal service organizations can absorb. And, you know, we obviously want, you know, to increase salaries and that kind of stuff, but like want to smooth it out. So I just flag that as a debate we always have, and these numbers will be great, but then I think you're going to get a lot of views.
Well, I agree with you. I think because the influx, that debate will be probably even more robust come June, just because there's more options right on the table. And so, but I do believe, even if we don't have going into the June meeting a firm recommendation on what the reserve policy is or all the details sorted out, I'm hopeful that that reserve policy working group will have a recommendation of how we proceed, even if it's not codified yet. That's why I'm hoping.
You mean the June rules committee meeting or the
June commission meeting? The June commission meeting is when you all have to vote to decide on what the recommendation for IOLTA distribution is. So I doubt, I mean, we're not going to be able to send it out for public comments by that time, but we'll be in a place where it's like firm enough that there'll be some guidance that working group and the rules committee can impart on the commission to help guide them, because they've been working on this for several months and thinking about it.
Right. And I think we are doing a rules committee meeting on this topic before the June meeting, or is that going to get moved? Do we need to move it?
Originally intended to be built into the March meeting. It's not going to, because it's so complicated. They had to go back to the drawing board at least once or twice based on feedback, and I think it was the right feedback. So now we're aiming for that rules committee right after March, and I can't remember if it's March, if it's April now or May off the top of my head, but it is before the June commission meeting.
Got it. So it will have been sort of not vetted, but sort of debated at the rules committee meeting before, and then we'll have a good sense. Okay, that's good. I just, I'm really excited. I always sort of feel in the middle on this debate, which
Yeah.
is like, I want the money out, but I do want to have reserves. And I know people feel strongly one way or the other. So
Yeah.
just, I know you know this, but wanted to just raise it.
So just to sort of throw this out there, I know one of the fallback elements is on the working group. There's also the opportunity, just in case we don't finalize things to a certain degree. The current codification and process on the reserve speaks to a very formulaic approach to determining the reserve amount when we're in a surplus. And I think with the revenues that we're seeing now this year for 22, that will more than likely be the situation where we
Perfect.
end the year in a surplus. And because it's in a surplus, the guidance is
Right. We
there
just put it
for,
away and then.
for you to generate what that reserve amount in that very formula approach, right? So,
Perfect.
so I think, again, that could be the sort of fallback fail safe as a caption of potentially this would be what it would look like if we follow the current codification, and
Yeah.
then we can flip it to another variation based off of what ends up being recommended for the working group as well.
Great. Awesome. Thank you guys. Let me also give Selena and then Amin.
Amin should go before me because he's a commissioner.
Oh, he's saying it's okay for you to go.
All right, go ahead, Selena.
Okay, sorry. There feels like there's so many conversations happening at different working groups, and the Rules Revision Committee is already planning to look at the budget modification and carryover, which is so married to this like reserves conversation. LAC has been getting comments and feedback from our community about the carryover and budget modification current proposal. And I haven't shared our draft memo yet back with staff because we're circulating our comments back before we send it to you. But one thing that I'm really struggling to figure out the exact, there's something here that I can't really articulate. So this is first draft thinking, but in times in which we know that IOLTA is pretty stable and is going to increase, the earlier we communicate with programs, the better. And the State Bar has done a really fantastic job over the past couple of years of that. But we are always going to have executive directors who were EDs during the last the 2009, 10, 11, 12 recession, who will worry about what happens 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And so a lot of them are just very hesitant to do things that perhaps less experienced EDs would be more innovative in increasing salaries and like hiring social workers. And so I just want to flag that there's just a really close relationship with carryover request when we're seeing an increase in IOLTA funding, that we need to tell programs it's going to increase again next year. Don't carry over more money. Like, you need to be aggressive in hiring staff and spending this down. And even though we have a lot of staffing shortages, a lot of organizations will still struggle, but the messaging to programs around, we know that at least the next couple of years are pretty stable is just really key to this. Because I already read the carryover memos in the budget modification memo for this Friday, and there's a fair amount of carryovers and significant carryovers in our community, and they need to know that IOLTA is going to increase.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, what you want to?
Yeah, I guess, and I'm sure, again, I'm sure that this is being discussed, but I'm kind of curious because with respect to kind of the reserve policy, this almost feels like in addition to reserve, right? Like, there's so much here that this is now we're talking about generating money that can continue to generate more money and continue to generate more money, right? So is that kind of discussion happening, or do you think that that's something that is within the scope of that working group, like where we're talking about numbers at this level? Because it seems like this is much higher than they might have anticipated or we might have anticipated prior.
No, and that's what we have not previewed these latest numbers. I mean, to be honest with you, Michael and I were surprised at like the yield on the money market account and like a product that Wells Fargo, our bank, can offer, and then pulling out the calculator and seeing what that amount was. No, this is like hot off the presses. Then we wanted to move really quickly. you know, I don't think the rate is going to change, but we wanted to move really quickly, right? So that we can capitalize off of like, you know, in 3 months time, it'll pass a little bit quicker, but we have not previewed. So they don't know. Selena, I gave her a heads up, but the working group itself, they're meeting tomorrow, and then we'll share with them these very large kind of figures. And then that my hope, I mean, is like, yeah, they will take on this investment policy and giving us some parameters. And again, if they can't, then we need to make this a priority for the rules committee, and that, Erica, I know you're the chair of that. That may require us to rejiggle some things around to help prioritize this as a topic.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a unique opportunity to maybe almost build an endowment in a way. You know, where there's some money that we can sort of just be building on itself. I mean, that would be always the ideal, although that's not really how the statute structures it. So we have to kind of think through that a little bit.
Yeah.
How we want to deal with that.
Sorry, Erica. I guess.
Yeah, please.
Because that was sort of exactly the thought I had, is that we're talking about dollars that are so significant, but if we have restrictions on what we can do with the IOLTA funding just generally, does our return on the investment count within that same category, number one? Wait, is that
Yeah.
still IOLTA
Well,
money?
I think it does, and I mean, I haven't actually asked Brady about this, but I would always lean conservative, and this is what we tell our programs. Like, say our programs took our IOLTA money and then got attorney's fees, we require them to take that money and serve it to low income. I would imagine with our investment income, that would roll back to how it's prescribed in IOLTA statute with the main bulk of it. So it would have to be
Right.
go out through the statutory formula. The one thing, you know, that I think the commission should start to think about a little bit is if we have, like, you know, investment income, we're generating a sizable amount. Do we want to pursue kind of a statutory change to give the commission a little bit more authority and kind of distributing it, not purely through an IOLTA formula? We know there's somewhat of a spend down issue, but a disconnect, right? The need is growing, the need is exacerbated because of the pandemic. We now have some funding to kind of match that need, but programs are still really struggling with hiring and retention. And so how do we get programs there? I don't know if necessarily pumping it into the IOLTA formula and out the same mechanism will solve that recruitment and retention issue that I think is probably the number one biggest barrier now to like us being able to provide more services because programs can't hire. So I don't know if there's a way for us to be able to pursue some change, to give you all a little bit more discretion so that we can provide the more like more catered kind of support to programs versus giving them through the IOLTA formula. And if they still can't hire and retain, then services are not being met. I don't know. It's just a thought. We've never kind of been in this position, but I think the commission should start to think about that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, your point about, Selena's point too about the kind of carryovers, because I worked on that rule, so I have unfortunately a lot of knowledge on it for whatever result. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what LAC's feedback is, by the way. Yeah, there does seem to be this weird disconnect where it's like, we have all this money, we want to pump the money out, but like the organizations are having a hard time recruiting, which I get that, but it seems like, why not raise the salaries to make them a little more competitive? I get the fear. I totally get the fear, but like at some point we can't keep going and saying we need more money when we have all this money. And then they're like, well, we can't hire people. And it's like, well, you might need to compete with like my office, right? You're not going to compete with the law firms, but you can probably compete with the government, So yeah, I don't know how we communicate that other than by making carryovers like a little bit stricter and, that kind of stuff. Go ahead, Selena.
Well, just my very quick response to that is that our community has been, talking about the need to increase salaries so everyone gets it. I think the real challenge is that IOLTA awards for some organizations are such a small part of their total funding that, IOLTA funding is roughly 10 to 12% of our total funding for our whole state.
Oh, okay.
Right now, I think, and probably other Erica would know well, I think that the total funding for our entire community is like $500 million. And so, of total qualified expenditures. And so even when IOLTA is increasing to us a huge amount, it's not enough for them to do salary increases for all of their staff on other funding sources.
Okay, good point, good point.
But yeah, so we're talking about a lot of this, like how can we have LRAP? How can we have, retention bonuses? How can we pay law students? There are a lot of really, I think, innovative ways to increase the pipeline and solve our recruitment retention crisis. But the biggest challenge is that IOLTA is not large enough of a percentage of the total funding to help to lift all ships, basically. All staff salaries. You can't pay your IOLTA attorney.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that makes sense. I was just thinking about, yes, IOLTA might be small. We've also been shuttling out like a lot of other grants and money, so that's a really good perspective, and one that we should try to, I think is useful for us to remember, because I think that's helpful for me to understand the disconnect that's happening. Okay, are there other updates on this topic, or are we ready to
no
move
other
to the next
updates,
one?
and you'll get a fuller with more numbers and stuff at the commission meeting.
Well, thank you guys, and thanks for putting the money to work. We appreciate the kind of like quick use. I mean, especially with like fees on accounts, I'm sure, like you said, much better to be making money. I'm sure that the customer service at the state bar level is different than at the like retail customer level, but like I do really like, credit unions, and there's a lot of it's something for us to think about, right, as sort of community banking options, just as something for us to be in our longer term thinking,
No, absolutely. And I don't know if you recall at the November meeting, the staff asked to have a working group to work on leadership bank programs and how to increase revenue across the board, and then whether we can infuse like social responsibility metrics or D&I metrics within leadership bank. So that's all going to happen, but we wanted to prioritize at least this now.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Yeah.
And let me say this: if Wells Fargo is going to agree to be a leadership bank, if we keep banking with them, like, I know there's no explicit quid pro quo, but like that, to the extent that that's like a helpful leveraging point, like that's great, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, community banking is also valuable, and having these other factors is good too. So we should think about it. All right. Yeah, no, sorry, no quid pro quo. I didn't mean to like at all suggest that. Anyway, so on the care courts update, is that something, can we move to that next?
Yes, that's Chris is going to be presenting.
Awesome. Okay, Chris, thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure. And Dwan, let me know if I need to pick up the pace at any point, because I erred on the side of including like a little extra more info than maybe you need. So if I'm going too slow, just flag that. So in the interest of saving time, I'll just skip over the agenda slide and jump into it. So essentially, staff is going to be giving a brief update on the CARE, which stands for Community Assistance, Recovery, and Empowerment Act, the CARE Court grants at the commission meeting on March 24th. And we actually have a discussion question for you at the end of this slide deck for that meeting. So this is just teeing up a question about whether or not the full commission ought to create a committee to come up with recommendations for CARE Court awards. Okay, so just as a refresher for you, the CARE Act became law on September 14th, this last fall. It creates a new court program that starts on October 1st of this year for 7 counties. They're called the quote, Cohort 1 counties. They're Glenn, Orange, Riverside, San Francisco, the county and city, San Diego, Stanislaus, and Tuolumne. All the other counties have to start they have to start this court program by December 1 of 2024, and LA County has voluntarily accelerated its participation to this December 1, 2023. So that would just be 3 months after the Cohort 1 counties have to start. Respondents, the CARE Court program respondents, the actual party in the court, they will have to be adults. And I actually just hit the pause button really fast. Like, Dwan, did we present on CARE Court? I think we did to the full commission in the fall.
Yes,
this is a refresher, right? Okay, so I can kind of assume that you kind of remember some of that. Okay, so the respondents for this new court program, they will be adults with qualifying severe mental health issues. The CARE Act enumerates what those qualifying issues are. And among other eligibility criteria, they must be unlikely to survive without help survive in the community without help or in need of help to prevent a deterioration that is likely to result in a grave disability or serious harm to that person or to others. And then there are other criteria. And what happens for the respondents who meet this criteria is the care court program will result in what are called care agreements or care plans for that respondent to access community services, including, for instance, behavioral health care, stabilization, medication, and housing. Care agreements are voluntary settlements with the respondent. Care plans are court-ordered, so mandated plans for their behavioral health care, stabilization, meds, housing, et cetera. So in the absence of a voluntary settlement agreement, the court can order a care plan. Also, by way of refresher, the CARE Act requires the commission, the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission, to fund qualified legal services projects to provide representation in CARE Act proceedings, care agreements, and care plans, and to fund support centers for the training, support, and coordination of the above. The CARE Act also says that the courts must appoint a public defender to represent the respondent unless a qualified legal services project has agreed to do so. So QLSPs that get funding from the commission get the first bite at the apple, so to speak, to represent respondents. If no QLSP has agreed to do so, the court will appoint a public defender. A very roughly estimated 7,000 to 12,000 Californians across the whole state qualify for care court. Erica, I looked for like a second, like you were raising your hand to ask a question, but maybe you weren't.
I did, but I didn't want to interrupt you. But I did want to ask really quick: who's bringing the cases?
So the
sorry,
the
you
CARE
said
Act,
who's responding.
Yeah,
but
you're like, why is this happening? The CARE Act specifies that enumerated parties can be petitioners. And file a petition with a court, or maybe they file it with a county behavioral health office. I can't quite remember with whom it's filed, but essentially that petitioner would file a petition for someone to be a respondent. And then the petitioner has to be listed, has to be authorized to serve in that role.
And a family member is probably going to be the most common. There's like a family member, like I think a behavioral health specialist can also trigger a petition. So those are the types of parties that might, those two. And there's a few more other categories.
Who are the lawyers though?
For the petitioners or for the respondents, it would be QLSPs or public defenders.
Right. No. The public defenders and QLSPs on the one side. I'm just curious if it's going through like the DA's office or like city.
Selena's like shaking her head. I don't know if you're Selena. So like no one knows. I don't know if the CARE Act specifies. Selena, does it specify who the? I don't think there's publicly funded, there's a publicly funded counsel to a respondent via this award making process. I'm unsure if there's something like that for the petitioners.
Yeah. So this is my understanding. So
okay. Sorry, I just don't I just need some.
Yeah, you need more of a refresher than what I'm giving you.
So this is my understanding. So one of the interested parties that's enumerated in the statute can trigger the petition. Once they file the petition, that party is dropped off, and then that petition moves forward. And this is the piece I'm not confident, but my understanding is then that county takes responsibility of like the representation, who exactly that is, if it's going to be county attorneys, if it's going to be outsourced. That's the piece I'm fuzzy on. But that's how my understanding.
Okay, so it's not as if the petitioner is like legally moving through as like a plaintiff with their own attorney.
No.
It somehow goes over to some governmental entity.
Yes.
But it's not entirely clear who. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just trying to get in my head because I'm like, if there's a PD, QLSP, who are they facing off against?
Yeah, and it's a civil court process, to my knowledge too. So it's that. So you would ask, like, is it the DA's office? I think they're trying to keep it. Please allow me to correct this later, but I feel like this is going to be a welfare and institutions code court. So I think it's going to be considered a civil proceeding, but I might have to double check that.
It is. It's how it's been characterized as a new civil court proceeding. So a civil case. It's not a criminal matter.
Sorry, I knew that. DAs don't have to exclusively operate in criminal court. Sometimes they can bring civil offenses. And so I just didn't know if the idea was they're gonna designate like a whole section that just does this, or if it's somewhere else, but it doesn't sound like we know the answer to that.
We
so
don't
I'm
know the
sorry.
answer, and I've never heard the DA implicated.
Okay,
Doesn't
no,
mean that
that's
they're
great.
not, But I haven't heard that in any of our conversations.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem. I was more for my own edification. So sorry to take you on a tangent. I
No,
was
no,
just-
No, it's great. It was fun. And I can actually, and the CARE Act is rather detailed, and it's criteria and qualifications for different parties, and then as well as its processes and filing deadlines and notice periods and everything. So it's actually really easy for me to look up. If there's a moment where the committee's discussing something, I'll just go find the answer for you really fast. But to continue kind of presenting until there's a pause. An estimated 7,000 to 12,000 Californians statewide might qualify to be care court respondents, would meet the statutory criteria for a care court respondent. That's not to suggest that every year it will be 7,000 to 12,000. My understanding is that's not to suggest that every year there will be 7,000 to 12,000 Californians that go through this program, but rather that's just some subset of those might go through it each year. For cohort 1, which is approximately 25% of the state's population, if you look at general population, just dividing that range, 7,000 to 12,000 by 4, would give you 1,750-ish to about 3,000 Californians qualifying in cohort 1. The amount for cohort that's been proposed for cohort 1 for representation to respondents and for so QLSP or public defender representation, and also for support centers to provide technical assistance to QLSPs is $6.1 million. So that's for the 7 counties, and it doesn't include LA, which the number is to be determined. But for the 7